The story opens with a stark contrast between the gleaming, antiseptic hallways of Seoul's most prestigious trauma center and a new girl, whose downcast eyes are mistaken for submission but are actually the trained scan of someone who has seen more blood than the entire surgical wing combined. The fluorescent lights hum overhead like flatlined monitors. Dr. Hans Sterling, the chief surgeon whose reputation is built on perfectly curated success rates, stands at the head of a packed conference room. His voice cuts through the sterile air like a scalpel through skin. "Miss Linda Dan," he announces, his tone dripping with professional contempt, "has been with us for exactly 3 weeks. In that time, she has managed to question my suture techniques, reorganize our instrument trays without permission, and most impressively, demonstrate what I can only describe as a complete inability to function under the pressure of a real operating theater." Laughter ripples through the room. 30 pairs of eyes turn toward the back corner where Linda sits, her posture unnaturally still, hands folded on the table before her. She wears the standard surgical scrubs like armor, her dark hair pulled back in a tight, efficient bun. Her face reveals nothing. No embarrassment, no anger, just that same distant, almost hollow calm that makes the other nurses uncomfortable. "She freezes," Sterling continues, turning to face her directly now. "She hesitates. And in my hesitation kills patience. Effective immediately, Miss Dan is being reassigned to administrative duties pending a formal review of her." The doors burst open. The story opens with a stark contrast between the gleaming, antiseptic hallways of Seoul's most prestigious trauma center and a new girl, whose downcast eyes are mistaken for submission but are actually the trained scan of someone who has seen more blood than the entire surgical wing combined. The fluorescent lights hum overhead like flatlined monitors. Dr. Hans Sterling, the chief surgeon whose reputation is built on perfectly curated success rates, stands at the head of a packed conference room. His voice cuts through the sterile air like a scalpel through skin. "Miss Linda Dan," he announces, his tone dripping with professional contempt, "has been with us for exactly 3 weeks. In that time, she has managed to question my suture techniques, reorganize our instrument trays without permission, and most impressively, demonstrate what I can only describe as a complete inability to function under the pressure of a real operating theater." Laughter ripples through the room. 30 pairs of eyes turn toward the back corner where Linda sits, her posture unnaturally still, hands folded on the table before her. She wears the standard surgical scrubs like armor, her dark hair pulled back in a tight, efficient bun. Her face reveals nothing. No embarrassment, no anger, just that same distant, almost hollow calm that makes the other nurses uncomfortable. "She freezes," Sterling continues, turning to face her directly now. "She hesitates. And in my hesitation kills patience. Effective immediately, Miss Dan is being reassigned to administrative duties pending a formal review of her." The doors burst open. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you just to know how. Chapter 1. The New Girl's Silence ****. The locker room smells like disinfectant and barely concealed contempt. Linda Dan stands in front of locker 247, her fingers moving with practiced efficiency as she reorganizes the contents for the 3rd time this week. Someone keeps accidentally knocking her supplies onto the floor. Today it was the hemostatic gauze. Yesterday, her spare tourniquets. The day before, an entire box of chest seals scattered across the tile like playing cards. "Oh, look." Nurse Choi's voice cuts through the fluorescent hum. The new girl's playing doctor again. Laughter echoes off the metal lockers. Linda doesn't turn around. Her hands continue their methodical work. Tourniquets left side, quick clot center, collapsible airway kit tucked behind her spare scrubs where prying eyes won't find it. Equipment that has no business being in a civilian hospital locker. Equipment that tells a story she's not ready to share. What is all that anyway? Nurse Park leans against the adjacent locker, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the metal. "Planning to open your own hospital in there?" "Just being prepared," Linda says quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Prepared for what?" "Dr. Sterling already said you're done. Administrative reassignment means you're basically a glorified file clerk now." Park's smile is sharp enough to cut. "Probably for the best. We can't have people who freeze in the OR. People die when you hesitate, Linda." The words are designed to wound, but Linda's expression remains perfectly neutral. She's heard worse. Survived worse. These pristine, privileged nurses with their gossip and their hierarchy games have no idea what real pressure looks like. They've never had to perform a thoracotomy in the back of a moving truck while insurgents fired at the chassis. Never had to choose which of 3 bleeding soldiers gets the only unit of blood. Never had to become a ghost just to survive. Did you even go to medical school? Choi presses, emboldened by Linda's silence. Or did you just bribe someone for that credential? Linda closes her locker with a soft click. The combination lock spins under her fingers. 32-14-07. The coordinates of a place that officially doesn't exist on any map. A habit she can't seem to break. "Excuse me," she says, moving past them with her head down, her footsteps silent on the tile. Behind her, the laughter continues. They think they've won. They think silence means defeat. They have no idea that silence is a weapon she's mastered. Chapter 2. The Arrival of Song Jo ****. The emergency bay doors explode inward at 3:47 p.m. 6 black SUVs with tinted windows screech to synchronize stops outside Hanseong Memorial's trauma entrance. The vehicles are expensive, the kind that politicians and celebrities travel in, armored and anonymous. But there's something else about them, something that makes the security guards exchange nervous glances and reach for phones instead of approaching. The doors open like choreographed violence. Men in tailored suits emerge first, 8 of them, moving with the fluid efficiency of trained operators. They're not medical personnel. The bulges under their jackets aren't medical equipment. One of them barks orders in rapid Korean, while another sweeps the entrance with eyes that have seen combat. Then they bring out the stretcher. The man on it is drowning in his own blood. His white shirt, custom-tailored, probably worth more than a month's salary, is soaked crimson from chest to waist. His face is pale, lips tinged blue, but his eyes are sharp, alert, calculating even through the pain. Gunshot wound to the chest. One of the suited men announces as they burst through the doors. He needs surgery. Now. The triage nurse stammers. We need to. Registration requires. Registration can wait until he's not dying. The man produces a wallet thick with bills and identification cards that carry too much weight. Get your best surgeon. Money is not an issue. Dr. Sterling appears from the surgical wing, his white coat pristine, his expression already shifting into his VIP patient mode. He's built a career on treating the wealthy and connected, and his instincts recognize opportunity even through the chaos. I'm Dr. Hans Sterling, Chief of Trauma Surgery, he announces, his voice commanding the space. We'll take excellent care of. The patient's hand shoots out, grabs Sterling's wrist with surprising strength for someone losing blood by the second. When he speaks, his voice is rough gravel over broken glass. Song Jo, he says, identifying himself with a name that makes 2 nurses visibly pale. And I'm not going anywhere until I see her. Sterling frowns. Sir, you're in critical condition. We need to. The ghost. Song Jo's eyes sweep the crowd gathering in the emergency bay. I want the ghost. The suited men exchange glances. Sterling looks genuinely confused. I don't know who you're referring to, Sterling begins, his professional mask slipping slightly. But I assure you, I have 15 years of experience and... Not you. Song Jo's gaze finally lands on something. Someone, standing in the back corner near the supply closet. Linda Dan. Still in her scrubs. Still invisible to everyone except the dying mafia boss, who somehow knows exactly who she is. Their eyes meet across 30 feet of sterile hospital floor. And Linda feels her carefully constructed world begin to crumble. Chapter 3. The Refusal ****. They wheel Song Jo into Trauma Bay 4, and Sterling follows like a king entering his domain. He's already calling for instruments, already delegating tasks, already building the narrative of how he saved the mysterious VIP patient. Linda stays in the hallway, her back pressed against the wall, her heart rate elevated for the first time in 3 weeks. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. Song Jo is supposed to be dead. The official report said he died in the Busan incident. The one that never made the news, the one that got 17 people disappeared and her entire identity burned. But dead men don't show up bleeding in Seoul hospitals. Dead men don't call out for ghosts. We need to prep for emergency thoracotomy, Sterling announces inside the trauma bay. Someone get me. The monitors start screaming. Song Jo's vitals are crashing. Blood pressure dropping. Oxygen saturation falling like a stone. The trauma team rushes forward, but Song Jo's hand shoots out again, this time finding Sterling's throat. The room freezes. 8 suited men step forward as one, hands moving toward concealed weapons. The nurses back away. Security reaches for their radios but doesn't key them. Nobody wants to be the one who starts a gunfight in a hospital. Song Jo pulls Sterling down until their faces are inches apart. When he speaks, his voice carries clearly despite the alarms. I die without surgery. You perform surgery. I die anyway. His grip tightens. You know why? Sterling's face is turning red. He manages to shake his head. Because you are a politician with a scalpel, Song Jo rasps. You take easy cases. You build statistics. You are good at PowerPoint presentations and hospital fundraisers. But you have never held a man's heart in your hands while his enemies are shooting through the walls. He releases Sterling, who stumbles backward gasping. The ghost has. Song Jo's eyes find Linda again, watching from the doorway. The ghost held mine. Busan. 3 years ago. Shipping container. No power. No backup. Just her hands and 60 seconds before the building came down. The revelation hits the room like a detonation. Sterling turns to look at Linda. Really look at her for the first time. The quiet new girl. The one he was firing this morning. The one everyone assumes is incompetent. That's impossible, Sterling breathes. She's a ghost, Song Jo finishes. And the only person in this building I trust with a blade near my heart. He locks eyes with Linda. Will you? Linda's mind races through scenarios. She could walk away. Maintain her cover. Let Song Jo die and take his secrets with him. Return to her quiet, invisible life of mockery and administrative duties. But 20 pairs of eyes are watching her now. Song Jo's bodyguards. Sterling's surgical team. The hospital administrator who just arrived, already calculating the lawsuit if a high-profile patient dies because they refused his request. And somewhere beneath the fear and the careful control, that old part of her, the ghost part, is already moving. Prep or 7, Linda says, her voice suddenly carrying an authority that silences every other voice in the room. Typo negative standing by. I want vascular and cardiac on call. Full crash cart. And everyone who can't keep their hands steady and their mouth shut stays outside. She walks into the trauma bay, and the crowd parts for her like she's carrying a loaded weapon. Because in a way, she is. Chapter 4. The Forced Promotion ****. The hospital administrator. A thin man named Director Kwon whose entire existence revolves around liability and public image. Corners Sterling in the hallway while the ore is being prepped. You're going to let her operate? Kwon's voice is a harsh whisper. The woman you were firing this morning? Sterling's jaw works silently. His pride is a physical wound, but his survival instinct is stronger. The patient refuses anyone else. If he dies, a lawsuit is the least of our problems. Kwon glances at the suited men standing guard outside the trauma bay. Do you know who Song Jo is? Some kind of businessman. He's the head of the largest organized crime syndicate in East Asia, Kwon hisses. The Korea Mafia boss who controls everything from shipping routes to political campaigns. If he dies in our hospital because we refused his request, those men won't sue us. They'll disappear us. Sterling's face goes pale. So here's what's going to happen, Kwon continues, his corporate smile returning. You are going to supervise the surgery. Linda Dan is going to perform it. And when Song Jo wakes up alive, you are going to take credit for assembling such an excellent team. Understood? She's not even, Sterling struggles with the words. I don't know anything about her actual credentials. She could be a fraud. Then pray she's a convincing one. Kwon straightens his tie. Because if she's not, we're all dead anyway. Sterling finds Linda in the scrub room, methodically washing her hands with the kind of precision that speaks to muscle memory older than her tenure at this hospital. Her face is a mask, but there's something different about her now. The hunted look is gone. In its place is something colder. Sharper. You're really going to do this? He asks. Linda doesn't look up from the sink. You're really going to let me? Do I have a choice? No. She dries her hands, reaches for the surgical gloves. But neither do I. Not anymore. Who are you? Sterling asks, and for the first time, there's genuine curiosity instead of contempt in his voice. Linda pauses at the door to the operating theater. Through the window, she can see Song Jo being transferred to the table, his chest already prepped and draped. The monitors show a man dancing on the edge of death. Someone who thought she could leave the war behind, Linda says quietly. I was wrong. She pushes through the doors, and Sterling follows, suddenly feeling like a medical student again, watching someone who actually knows what they're doing. Chapter 5. Into the ***. The operating room is a cathedral of chrome and controlled chaos. Lights bright enough to expose every secret. Machines that beep and hum with the rhythm of borrowed time. Nurses arranged in perfect formation, their eyes tracking Linda with a mixture of fear and fascination. Song-jo lies on the table, sedated but not unconscious, his request. He wants to know if the ghost's hands are still steady. Wants to watch her work. Wants to see if the woman who saved him in hell can save him in heaven. Linda approaches the table, and the room collectively holds its breath. Her hands, the ones that supposedly shake, the ones that Sterling mocked as belonging to someone who freezes under pressure, extend toward the instrument tray. Nurse Park, assisting despite her earlier cruelty, watches those hands like a hawk, waiting for the tremor that will confirm all her suspicions. Linda's fingers close around the scalpel. Steady as stone, still as death. The transformation is complete. The hunched, apologetic new girl is gone. In her place stands someone who has carved open human beings in places where screaming was a luxury and anesthesia was a fairy tale. Her eyes scan the monitors, reading the data faster than the machines can display it. Her breathing slows to match the ventilator's rhythm. Pressure's dropping, the anesthesiologist announces. We need to move fast. Scalpel, Linda says, her voice calm as a prayer. The blade touches skin, and muscle memory takes over. The incision is perfect, deep enough to access the thoracic cavity, precise enough to avoid unnecessary damage. Blood wells up, but Linda's hands are already moving, clamping and cauterizing with a speed that makes Sterling blink. Retractor, she calls, and the instrument appears in her palm before she finishes the word. The surgical team falls into rhythm around her, and Sterling realizes with growing unease that they're following her lead, not his. The nurses respond to her requests with instant obedience. Even the anesthesiologist adjusts his drug protocol based on her subtle hand signals, a language Sterling doesn't recognize. Military field signals. Combat medic shorthand. Entering the thoracic cavity, Linda announces. Her hands disappear into Song-jo's chest, and her expression shifts to something almost meditative. Bullet fragmented. Pieces lodged in the pericardium. Significant bleeding, but the heart muscle is intact. We're lucky. Lucky. Sterling echoes, watching from over her shoulder. Lucky he has excellent bodyguards who got him here fast. Lucky the bullet was a 9mm and not a rifle round. Lucky, Linda pauses, her fingers working inside Song-jo's chest with impossible delicacy. That I've done this exact surgery 47 times before. The number hangs in the air like an accusation. Sterling has performed maybe 6 emergency thoracotomies in his entire career. All planned, all controlled. All in situations where backup was available and the patient was already stable. 47. Where? He asks before he can stop himself. Linda's eyes don't leave her work. Places that don't exist on maps. For people who don't exist in official records. Under conditions that would make this look like a spa treatment. She extracts the first bullet fragment, a twisted piece of metal that drew gasps from the nurses. Then the second. Then a third piece so small it would have been missed by imaging, but Linda finds it by touch alone. That one would have killed him in 18 hours, she says, dropping it into the specimen tray. Slow migration into the myocardium. Textbook delayed fatality. Sterling stares at the fragment. He would have never found it. Would have closed up, declared victory, and Song-jo would have coded 2 days later with Sterling completely confused about what went wrong. How did you? Experience, Linda interrupts, her hands already moving to repair the damaged tissue. The kind you don't get from taking only the easy cases. The barb hits home, and Sterling has no response. In the observation gallery above, Director Kwon watches with barely concealed relief. Song-jo's bodyguards watch with something that might be respect. And somewhere in the back, Nurse Choi and Nurse Park watch the woman they mock transform into someone they don't recognize. Someone who belongs in an, or more than any of them ever will. Chapter 6. The Sabotage ***. The first sign is the oxygen sensor alarm, a soft chime that shouldn't mean anything yet makes Linda's hands freeze mid-suture. Check the O2 lines, she orders, her voice suddenly sharp. The anesthesiologist frowns at his panel. Showing normal pressure, wait. His expression shifts. Pressure's dropping. Not in the tank. In the lines. Linda's eyes snap to the wall-mounted oxygen ports. Her mind races through possibilities, discarding the innocent explanations and landing on the one she knows is true because she's seen it before. Someone cut the main supply line, she says flatly. That's impossible, Sterling protests. This is a hospital. Who would? The lights flicker. Then the backup generator kicks in, bathing the ore in harsh red emergency lighting. Everyone stay calm, Linda commands, but her hands are already moving faster. She's operating on battery-powered lights now, her sutures becoming quicker, less elegant, but just as effective. How long on the portable O2? 12 minutes, the anesthesiologist says, his voice tight. Maybe 15 if we reduce the flow, but the patient will die if we don't finish this surgery. Linda's hands don't slow. She's closing the pericardium now, her stitches perfect even in the crimson shadows. This is a hit. Rival faction. They can't get to him directly because of his guards, so they're forcing us to fail. Sterling's face is ghost white in the emergency lighting. How do you know? Because I've seen it before. Linda's voice is ice. Tajikistan. 2019. Warlord needed emergency surgery. His enemies cut the generator fuel line and pumped carbon monoxide into the building ventilation. Killed everyone except the surgical team because we were wearing masks. She gestures with a blood-covered hand toward the air vents. Check those. Now, one of Song Joe's bodyguards, who has been standing silent in the corner, immediately moves to comply. He produces a handheld detector from his jacket and sweeps it near the vents. The device's screen flashes red. Sevoflurane, he reports in accented English. Someone's pumping anesthetic gas into the ore, trying to knock everyone out. Seal the vents, Linda orders. Use the surgical drapes. Tape them if you have to. We have maybe 3 minutes before the concentration is high enough to affect us. The team springs into action, but Sterling remains frozen, his world view shattering in real time. This isn't medicine. This is warfare. And Linda is fighting it like she was born to it. Chapter 7. The Chiefs collapse ***. The monitors scream. Song Joe's heart rate spikes, then plummets. The rhythm on the EKG goes from organized beats to the chaotic dance of ventricular fibrillation. The anesthesiologist lunges for the crash cart, but Linda is faster. V-fib, she announces, her voice cutting through the alarm. Charging to 200 joules. But Sterling, who has been standing uselessly beside her, suddenly lurches forward. Wait, we need to, the protocol says. The protocol is for normal patients in normal situations, Linda snaps. She places the defibrillator paddles on Song Joe's exposed chest. This is neither. Clear. The shock makes Song Joe's body arc off the table. The monitors show no change. Still fibrillating. Still dying. Again, Linda demands. Charging to 300. You're going to damage the heart tissue, Sterling protests weakly. His hands are shaking now. Shaking in a way Linda's never have. If we just wait for the... He'll be dead in 90 seconds if we wait. Linda's eyes are locked on the monitors. Clear. Another shock. Another terrifying second where time holds its breath. And then a blip. A single organized heartbeat. Then another. The rhythm stabilizes, settling into something that looks almost normal despite everything that's been done to this body. Linda doesn't celebrate. She's already back to her sutures, closing the thoracic cavity with hands that haven't stopped moving through the entire crisis. Someone explain to me, Sterling whispers, his voice broken. What the hell is happening? Linda doesn't look up from her work. You're learning the difference between a surgeon and a combat medic. Surgeons work in controlled environments with backup plans and safety nets. Medics work in chaos with nothing but skill and stubborn refusal to let people die. She ties off the final internal suture. You've spent 15 years avoiding the hard cases, Sterling. Taking credit for other people's work. Building a reputation on carefully curated statistics. You're a good politician. You're excellent at hospital politics and fundraising galas. Her eyes finally meet his. But you were never a real surgeon. The words land like a scalpel between the ribs, precise, painful, and impossible to ignore. Sterling opens his mouth to protest, to defend himself, but nothing comes out. Because deep down, beneath the ego and the accolades and the carefully constructed image, he knows she's right. He's been a fraud all along. And it took a dying mafia boss to expose him. Chapter 8. The Breach ***. The explosion comes from the east stairwell, muffled by fire doors, but close enough to shake the lights. Song Joe's bodyguards react instantly, weapons appearing from concealed holsters. They take positions at the doors while Linda continues suturing like nothing happened. "How many?" she asks without looking up. The lead bodyguard, the one who checked the vents, speaks into his radio in rapid Korean. "4 confirmed. Maybe more. They breached the stairwell and are heading this way." "How long?" 3 minutes. Maybe 2. Linda's hands speed up. She's closing the external incision now, racing against 2 separate clocks, Song Joe's weakening vitals and the approaching hit squad. "I need 90 seconds. Can you give me 90 seconds? The bodyguard chambers around. "We'll give you what we can. Use the equipment," Linda says, her voice absolutely calm despite the approaching violence. "The imaging machines in the hallway, they're on wheels. Create a choke point. Force them into single file. The crash carts are steel reinforced. Use them as cover. And the fire extinguishers are improvised flashbangs if you know how to overpressure them," the bodyguard finishes, a grim smile crossing his face. "You've done this before. Baghdad, Mogadishu, Aleppo." Linda places another suture. "Hospitals are always targets. The trick is turning medical equipment into tactical advantages." The bodyguards move out, and through the windows, Sterling watches in horrified fascination as they transform the sterile hospital corridor into a defensive position. Crash carts become barricades. The MRI machine becomes an obstacle that forces attackers to expose themselves. Fire extinguishers are positioned like claymore mines. "This is insane," Sterling breathes. "We're doctors. This is a hospital. This is reality," Linda counters. "And reality doesn't care about your pristine white coat morality. Sometimes saving lives means being willing to fight for them." Gunfire erupts in the hallway, sharp cracks that make the nurses scream and drop to the floor. Sterling ducks instinctively, but Linda doesn't even flinch. Her hands continue their steady work, closing skin, placing the final sutures that will hold Song Joe together. Through the chaos, she can hear the bodyguards executing her improvised defensive plan, the crash of the equipment being toppled, the hiss of fire extinguishers being weaponized, shouted commands in Korean, and the thump of bodies hitting the floor. 60 seconds, Linda announces. "Almost done." A bullet cracks through the observation window, sending safety glass raining down. Nurses scream. Sterling drops completely to the floor. But Linda stays standing, her body positioned between Song Joe and the incoming fire, her hands never stopping. 30 seconds. More gunfire. Closer now. The bodyguards are being pushed back, their defensive line collapsing under superior numbers. 15. The doors shudder as something heavy impacts them from outside. The lock holds, but barely. It'll take maybe one more hit before they breach. Done. Linda ties off the final external suture and steps back. Get him to recovery. Now. Chapter 9. The final stitch ***. The doors burst open just as police sirens flood the hallway. The tactical team that was breaching freezes, caught between Song Joe's bodyguards on one side and armed police on the other. There's a moment of perfect tension. Everyone's weapons raised, everyone's fingers on triggers, everyone waiting to see who shoots first. "Drop your weapons." The police commander's voice echoes through the chaos. "Everyone. Now." Slowly, reluctantly, the hit squad complies. They're professionals enough to know when a contract has failed. Song Joe is alive. The surgery is complete. And now there are too many witnesses, too many cameras, too much official scrutiny to finish the job. They lower their weapons and surrender. Linda stands over Song Joe's unconscious body, her surgical gown splattered with blood, her hands finally still. She watches the police flood into the corridor, watches Sterling slowly rise from where he's been cowering on the floor, watches the hospital security arrive far too late to be useful. Director Kwan appears, his face pale but his corporate smile already returning. He's already spinning the narrative in his head. How Hanseong Memorial's excellent security protocols prevented a tragedy, how their world-class surgical team saved a prominent businessman, how he will somehow take credit for all of it. But when his eyes meet Linda's, the smile falters. Because Linda Dan, the quiet new girl, the one they were going to fire, is standing in the center of an operating room that looks like a war zone, and she's the only person present who doesn't look shaken. She looks like this is just another Tuesday. Sterling slowly approaches her, stepping over broken glass and spent shell casings. When he speaks, his voice is barely a whisper. All those times I mocked your hands shaking, he says. They weren't shaking from fear, were they? No, Linda confirms quietly. They were shaking from the effort of not reacting, of staying quiet, of pretending to be someone I'm not. Who are you? Linda strips off her surgical gloves, the blood-stained latex landing in the bio-waste bin with a soft thump. Someone who tried to leave the war behind. But the war doesn't let you leave. It just follows you, waiting for the right moment to pull you back in. She looks at Sterling, really looks at him. You wanted to fire me this morning. You called me incompetent. Said I didn't belong in your oar. Sterling can't meet her eyes. Can't find words adequate for the shame he's feeling. You were right, Linda continues. I don't belong here. I never did. This place is for people who play hospital politics and perform surgeries by committee. People who check boxes and follow protocols and build careers on carefully managed statistics. She gestures to Song Jo, now stable and being prepped for transport. But when the real emergencies come, when the bleeding won't stop and the power goes out and the men with guns are coming through the doors, you need someone who doesn't freeze. Someone who doesn't hesitate. Linda turns to leave. You need a ghost. And ghosts don't belong in places like this. Sterling watches her walk away, surrounded by police and bodyguards and hospital administrators all demanding answers, and he realizes that he's just witnessed something he'll never fully understand. He's seen what it looks like when someone who has danced with death so many times they know all the steps. And it's nothing like what they teach in medical school. Chapter 10, The Choice ***. Song Jo wakes up 36 hours later. Linda is sitting beside his bed in the private recovery room, not because she wants to be there, but because his bodyguards politely insisted. They've been hovering outside her apartment, protecting her from rival factions who might seek revenge. It's a cage disguised as concern. When his eyes open, the first thing Song Jo says is, "You should have let me die." Linda doesn't respond immediately. She's been thinking the same thing. "Your life would have stayed quiet," he continues, his voice rough from intubation. "Anonymous. Safe. But you saved me anyway." "Why?" "Because I'm a doctor," Linda says simply. "Beneath everything else, all the other identities I've worn, all the things I've done, I'm still someone who saves lives." Song Jo laughs, then winces from the pain in his chest. "You're wasted here, playing pretend in this sterile prison, letting people like Sterling treat you like you're nothing. It's better than the alternative." "Is it?" Song Jo's eyes are sharp despite the pain medication. "I remember Busan. You saved 17 people that night. Not just me. You went back into the building 3 times while it was burning, pulled out soldiers and civilians, and didn't differentiate between the two. That's not someone who belongs behind a desk filling out incident reports." He shifts in the bed, wincing. "I'm offering you a position, head of medical operations for my organization. You'd have resources, real resources, the best equipment, talented staff, no committees, no politics, just medicine practiced at the highest level. For criminals," Linda points out. "For people who need help," Song Jo counters. "My organization runs clinics in areas where no legitimate hospital will go. We provide healthcare to refugees, to workers the government pretends don't exist, to people who fall through the cracks of your civilized medical system." He meets her eyes. "Yes, we're criminals, but we also save lives that no one else bothers to save. You know I'm right. You've seen it. In Baghdad. In Aleppo. The places where the real work happens aren't the places with spotless floors and award-winning brochures." Linda is quiet for a long moment, weighing the offer against everything she's tried to build here. The quiet life. The anonymous existence. The hope that she could leave the ghost behind and become someone normal. But sitting in this hospital, wearing scrubs that feel like a costume, facing the prospect of returning to a locker room where people mock her and a chief surgeon who now fears what she represents, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like another kind of prison. "I'll think about it," she says finally. Song Jo smiles. "You've already decided. I can see it in your eyes. You're just waiting for the right moment to admit it to yourself." He's right, of course. He's been right since the moment he called for the ghost. Linda Dan stands, smoothing her scrubs one last time. In her pocket, she can feel the weight of her hospital badge. Linda Dan, surgical nurse, employee number 2477. A identity she wore like armor, a shield against her past. She pulls it out, looks at the photo. The woman in the picture looks tired, defeated, small. "When you're ready," Song Jo says quietly, "my people will find you." No pressure. No timeline. Just know that the offer stands. Linda nods. She walks out of the recovery room, past the bodyguards who bow their heads respectfully, past the nurse's station where Choi and Park pretend not to stare, past the administrative offices where Director Kwan is already spinning the incident into positive press coverage. She walks all the way to Sterling's office. He's sitting at his desk, surrounded by paperwork, looking older than he did 3 days ago. When she enters, he stands quickly, awkwardly, like he doesn't know how to interact with her anymore. Linda, he begins. She places her badge on his desk. I'm done, she says simply. Sterling stares at the badge. You're quitting. I was never really here to begin with. Linda turns toward the door. You need someone who fits into your system, Sterling. Someone who follows protocols and doesn't question your authority. Someone who makes you look good. She pauses at the threshold. That was never going to be me. Wait. Sterling's voice stops her. I know I treated you poorly. I know I was wrong about you. I can make changes. We can. You can't change what this place is, Linda interrupts gently. And I can't change what I am. We're just fundamentally incompatible. She walks out of Hanseong Memorial Hospital for the last time, leaving behind the locker with her carefully organized emergency kit, the scrubs she wore like a disguise, and the dream of a quiet, normal life. Outside, the Seoul air is cold and sharp. The city sprawls in every direction, millions of people, thousands of emergencies, countless lives hanging in the balance. Somewhere in that chaos, Song Jo's organization operates. Saving people the system has abandoned, providing care in the shadows, doing the work that no one with a pristine reputation will touch. Linda takes out her phone, dials a number she's had memorized but never used. This is Linda Dan, she says when someone answers. Tell Song Jo I accept his offer. The voice on the other end doesn't sound surprised. A car will pick you up in 20 minutes. Make it 30, Linda says, already walking. I need to stop by my apartment first. I have some equipment to collect. She ends the call and disappears into the crowd, just another face in the Seoul masses. The ghost has returned, and this time, she's not hiding. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Your time and attention mean the world to me. Creating these stories takes countless hours of research, writing, and careful crafting, and knowing that you stayed with Linda's journey from beginning to end truly makes it all worthwhile. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I absolutely love saying hello to each and every one of you and seeing how far our stories are reaching across the globe. Your support fuels this channel and inspires me to keep bringing you gripping, edge-of-your-seat narratives. Thank you for being part of this community. See you in the next story.